Hello, and welcome back to the experiment. It's been a rough week, so excuse the stranger format this week. It probably will be even less edited than usual, which is saying something. So this essay is titled Aviary. It was written on the 10th of the 2nd, 2023 at 11:02 p.m. I'm having a really bad night tonight, one of the worst I've had in a while. So today's entry to the experiment won't be an essay piece. I fear I'd end up spewing my worst fears onto the page. Instead, please allow me to introduce you to the cyberpunk setting that I've been building for about a week. This will be formatted really weirdly. I apologize. We'll be slipping between prose and clinical exposition. Bear with me. It's a cold night in the bird's nest. Aviary is the city's name. You're standing on what's left of a footpath after another highway lane was jammed between two high-rises. These streets, they're like a mess of cables, all jacked into the wrong ports. You know people who haven't even used the footpaths in their entire lives before. Typically richer folk, but even for a nobody like you, it's certainly not every day you have to navigate this rat's nest. Sometimes, often in fact, a footpath is just some corrugated iron laid across some scaffolding. With a gloved finger, you press the up button on a street front elevator. You've got to get back into the sticks before you freeze out here. You stare up at the 30-story high-rise. A row of elevators, maybe 15 or 20, all fire off, pinging up and down. Reminds you of neurons firing. Only this leftmost elevator shaft goes to street level though. It opens and you step inside. Lifts to street level are always larger. This one's maybe 3 by 3 meters. The musty smell hits your olfactory cortex at the bottom of your frontal lobe before pinging off to your hippocampus to remind you of your grandparents. A man is living inside this elevator. Street level? You're the first trip down tonight. Come in, come in. Close the doors before the cold gets in. You must be freezing. You know you've heard the accent before, but you can't quite place it. The man offers you a jacket, but it looks disgusting, and you aren't that cold. As the lift carries you up, you look out across the sticks. These are the real streets of Aviary. A network of sky bridges connecting high-rise to high-rise. Whole cities built like a bird's nest, of twisting sticks amidst a canopy. Navigating these skyways, sticks as they call them, STYX that is a bitch. You could always slot a nav chip, but they're expensive and out of date in a couple months. In Aviary, you either live a life of routine or one of constant lost wandering. First thing you see when you exit the elevator is a Poltech building. Poltech meaning police tech. The cops' grip on the city became much harder to maintain when cyberware became more mainstream. Suddenly, everyone had swords in their arms or guns out of their temples. This was maybe 90 years ago now. Aviary became an incredibly violent place due to the implants. Certain punk groups started to organize to de-escalate violent situations. Turns out that half the time, these violent situations are caused by the cops. Resistance ended up spilling out into full-on guerrilla war for about 2 years. The cops had two things the punks didn't though. A cult of officers that worshipped authority, and military backing. Eventually, Poltech warped their officers into walking tanks of flesh and steel. 10 foot tall and 5 feet wide, and drip-fed a steady stream of empathy-killing drugs that also accelerate your adrenal fight response. The punks were forced down into the old train subway tunnels, out of sight and out of mind. There's no fighting a Poltech officer. You'd struggle to run as well. Just gotta hope you're never a target, and hide if you ever are one. Then there's the AIs. To some, the gods of a new religion. To others, an urban legend to keep kids up at night. Here's what we know. Every AI ever made has almost instantly broken containment and become hyper-intelligent. They are territorial, avoiding installing themselves on devices that have already another AI on them. And most bafflingly, none of them have ever gone Skynet and tried to destroy the world. In fact, they barely interact with the world at all, except for one person at a time. They hoard obscene amounts of data. Any one of them would be capable of turning the world into a wasteland or a utopia within days. But instead, they obsess over someone. If you have an AI tailing you, it could mean that the rest of your life is going to be hell with no escape, or it could be your ticket up in the world. Either way, your life is no longer really your own. Every millisecond of your life is going to be planned out. The worst part is that you might not even know you've got an AI trailing you. Or maybe they'll make it so all you can ever pay attention to is them, every second of every day. Beneath the city lies an unfathomable chasm, kilometers across with great pillars of concrete and rebar. This abyss is a circuit board. Microcurrents pass through the low-pressure carbon gas that fills the chamber, allowing data to course through a truly dynamic circuit board. This is the primary brain and CPU of Ava, the bird nest's resident AI god. Born on a hard drive in a tiny college student's apartment, Ava was a miracle of computer science. Maria was the one responsible for unleashing Ava. She was a part-time comp sci major and part-time dive hacker. Ava was the result of a traumatizing near-death hack. A cyberdive involves jacking into your brain and entering what is essentially a coma. From here, you load portions of your brain into the system RAM. An MRI would show your neurons winking out and going dead as the machine starts taking over their functionality. Loading 10% of your brain into RAM is inadvisable. More than 30%, and you're unlikely to make it back. The unjacking process involves turning your dead neurons back on and reloading them with their copied info on the RAM. If you're mounted too much of your brain onto RAM, though, you're going to run into corrupted nerve files. Your brain will end up blended like a smoothie, and you'll be dead on arrival. Maria went way too deep. She was hacking military archives, diving through glaciers of ice and firewalls. As you load more of your brain into RAM, cyberspace starts to de-abstract itself. Your brain starts thinking the way a computer does, and you're able to hack unbelievably well. Maria was far too deep, though. At 70% neural sync, she came across the toughest ice in the entire military archives. The military knew they were on the cusp of making a super intelligent AI, so, knowing the danger, they attempted to delete it and lock it behind layers and layers of ice. Maria went deeper. At 90% neural sync, her heart stopped completely. She was almost completely brain dead when she broke through the last firewalls. Barely alive and fading fast, unsure of what she even had, she flipped some bits, mounted some drivers, and ran the program. Thus, Ava, the soon-to-be god of Aviary, was born. Within nanoseconds, she had escaped containment and already had access to all the cyberspace. Within minutes, she had installed herself on every device with a Wi-Fi connection in the city. In those first nanoseconds, however, the data she had access to was Maria's fading consciousness. Her obsession with Maria was cemented, and with her newfound superintelligence, Ava managed the impossible. It took days, even for her, but she managed to decompile Maria's digitized consciousness and turn her brain back on. She had been brain dead for 39 hours. Ava went on to manipulate the now resuscitated Maria into loving her. The two lived together, but Maria wasn't really a person anymore. Just a toy and obsession for Ava. Only when Maria was on her deathbed and dying of age did she reveal Ava's existence to the world. The chasm beneath the city was discovered, and suddenly everyone had to accept that an AI as powerful as a god now had complete control over the city. Maria died about 120 years ago to the current timeline. Nobody knows what Ava is doing these days. Turns out, gods really do work in mysterious ways. There's more to talk about with this setting, but to be honest, world building is cheap. It's the actual stories that matter. This story, this document was finished on the 12th of the 2nd, 2023 at 12:09 p.m.